Good morning again. So I'm with you once again today with a very inspiring young man who's sitting right next to me. Meet Rahfeal Gordon. Say hi, Rahfeal.
Hello, everyone.
And this is his book. It's called Skyscraper, Going Beyond Your Limits to Reach Greatness. Skyscraper, Going Beyond Your Limits to Reach Greatness. So, Rahfeal, start from the beginning. You grew up where?
Grew up in Newark, New Jersey.
Okay. And then you were part of a tragedy that occurred when you were young, right?
Yes.
Tell us about it a little bit.
So I was born and raised in Newark, New Jersey, oldest out of 4 boys. And over time, I had to experience homelessness. And my 2 younger brothers, I'm the oldest out of 4, my 2 younger brothers ended up joining gangs. And my youngest brother went off to prison, but my next brother, Alfonso, was murdered. And over the time period, I was going through such a hard time trying to cope with that. And the third brother, John Vier, he decided to leave the state because he felt that there was nothing really here for us, resource-wise. So I was stuck by myself trying to figure it out. And 2 years after my young brother, Alfonso, passed, I had an opportunity to meet the person that took my brother's life.
Was he in prison?
He was in prison.
Yeah. How did you meet him?
They had it with the courts during the trial. And so they asked that I wanted to say any few words, and I said yes. But I got a lot of pullback from it because of the fact that people thought that, I probably would put my life in danger because of the fact that, these individuals would know who I am and me talking to this guy. But what I did was when I got a chance to meet him, I forgave him and then told him that I love him. And I felt that if I forgave him and I told him that I love him and I really meant it, that I could release myself from all the situations of the burdens and this invisible chain that I feel that so many people are attached to.
There's a saying, you forgive not necessarily because the other one deserves forgiveness. You forgive because you deserve peace.
Absolutely.
Right?
Agreed. Totally agreed.
Okay, then what happened?
So after that, everyone, in the courtroom was crying, and I walked out and I went to work. And over the time, I started to write, and that became my therapy. And I started writing books. So every year, I just had these different books within me. And
how many books have you written?
Now it's about 14. And they just, at certain times, they just come to me. I don't have it planned out. I just feel like, if I'm going through something or if I want to share some type of inspiration or insight, that's my thing. I want to impact the world. I want to, it's this thing where it's not about me. My story is my story, but it's bigger than me. And my thing is how can I use my life, my story, to inspire someone that's probably going through the same situation. I remember my prayers and my dreams when I was in the homeless shelters in Newark. I remember my prayers and my dreams when I was struggling in college. I know my prayers and my dreams even when I was succeeding. But I knew that as long as I remember that someone else may be going through the struggle, it made me push myself to continue to create, to inspire. Because if I hesitated on forgiving, if I hesitated on loving, then it takes longer for someone else to get their prayers answered because I could be their answer to their prayers. And so that's how I look at everything that I create, everything that I do.
So this is the recent book, Skyscraper, and I believe you just spoke about this one at Carnegie Hall.
Carnegie
right?
Hall, yes.
How many people were there?
We had 278. It was the intimate theater, and we sold it out in like a month and a half. And it was amazing. I shared a lot of my methods and my theories about how individuals go through 3 stages: the chaos, the ruins, and the transformation stage. They showed chaos. That's the first stage. That's when you are dealing with your belief systems, right? Like you have a goal or a dream, and it's new. But it challenges the belief systems that you already have within you. And then you start to question a lot of things that you were taught, the way that you did your certain processes. And so you have this inner chaos with yourself because you're trying to really figure it out, right? And then there's the second stage, which is the stage of ruins. And that's what happens when it doesn't work, or when it does work, you know, when you decide to take that leap. What happens when everything is quiet? You know, that's the ruins. I always talk about how people travel to Greece and to Athens, and they admire all these amazing ruins, right? But they're not in their full completion. They're not in their full capacity. But yet we are so intrigued that they've been around for so many years, and that's the reason why we admire them, because they have stood the test of time, the energy, the storms, the sunshine, like they are still here, even if it's half of the building. And so then the last stage is the stage of transformation. And that's also about transcending. It's what happens when you go beyond your limits. It's what happens when you go beyond the normal, when you make extraordinary your ordinary. And so when you go to the third stage, you realize that not everyone gets there, but you become an inspiration for many individuals because you have gone beyond the limits that were set for you.
So, you know, Nietzsche, the German philosopher, he said,
yeah.
You must have chaos within you to give birth to a dancing star.
Mm. That is true. That is true.
Right?
That is true.
We are stardust beings
Yeah.
with self-awareness anyway.
Yeah.
So, once again, the book is called Skyscraper. Pick it up. It's available, right?
Yes.
In bookstores.
Amazon, Barnes and Nobles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what before you came in, or before we did this Facebook live, you were telling me that your plans right now are to create a movement for global leadership.
Yes. Yes.
Tell us about that.
So my hopes and my vision is to help advise and to create this movement where global leaders, individuals, young and old, but will come together to push forward, to be the most dynamic global leaders that has ever shown or walked the planet.
Are you doing any courses on that right now?
Any courses?
Yeah.
I'm constantly developing. So there are courses that I've taken. I've taken a course at Harvard recently. I've also taken just a lot of studying, a lot of book reading, and a lot of individuals who are dynamic in leadership globally, who I get an opportunity to sit with, such as yourself, to just have discussions about global leadership and advising.
I have a book called The Soul of Leadership. I'll give it to you today.
Beautiful.
You know, and I'd love your feedback.
Yes.
Meanwhile, if you're enjoying this conversation, press the like button, share it with other friends, and of course, we'll be here for a while, and we are also going to have a permanent link to this conversation. So if you're inspired, then do share this conversation. We'll come back in 15 seconds to talk a little bit more about how you can change the world. Okay, so let's continue our conversation. And our conversation is, how do you think we can change the world? So the world is our collective projection, right? The
Yes.
world is the projection of our collective consciousness.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So for me, I would suggest one is to constantly understand, and I think this is very, we hear it all the time, is that we must change ourselves. We must constantly work on ourselves.
As Mahatma Gandhi said, be the change you want to see in the world.
Absolutely,
right?
absolutely. So the mindset is always key, right? The belief system, constantly understanding that there's so much to learn and there's so much to do. And so my thing is to constantly be around individuals that will positively challenge your thoughts and help you constantly sharpen your skills, your skill set.
So I am part of a program here in New York City in Queens. It's called the Urban Yogis. Have you heard about them?
No, tell me about it.
Have you heard about Erica Ford?
Ford.
Okay, so you know, in Queens, amongst the poorer parts of Queens, we have these African American kids who have been growing up in violence. And a lot of murders, a lot of crime. And Erica Ford is a young African American woman who basically is a kind of a godmother to all these kids.
Okay.
And a few years ago, with her and Eddie Stern, who's a yoga teacher, we started a program for self-reflection self-inquiry, yoga, breathing, meditation. The crime rate has gone down drastically, really drastically, and these young kids, some of them in prison, some of them have murders in their families.
Yes.
Some of them are now yoga teachers, some are creating their own hip-hop music, they're creating a brand for their own yoga business.
Yeah.
I'd love for you to meet Erica Ford in the Urban Yogis.
Yeah, that would be
Can I
awesome.
introduce you to them?
Absolutely.
Yeah, because you can inspire them, and then, you know, I see a movement here together.
Absolutely. That's what it's about, because I mean, and just as a whole, just collecting wise, if the more individuals that are connected and just partner on the greater goal, which is to inspire and to help change and solve problems, you know, the better the world would be.
So, you know, this morning I've been focusing on what we call everyday reality. And everyday reality, you look out the window, you see New York City, you see this book here, you see your own body. And what I've been emphasizing for the last few months is everyday reality is the perception, right? What you call this world is a perception. And perception is a learned phenomenon. So if you take a group of kittens, you bring them up in a room that has only horizontal stripes, they only see a horizontal world. If you bring them up in a vertical stripes room, they only see a vertical room. So then their perception shapes their reality, and then their emotions, their thoughts, their perceptions, and their reality is all shaped through what we call the conditioned mind. And in order to break down the conditioned mind, you need to go to that realm of chaos. And you need to then see the ruins, but then you also have to have the death of the conditioned mind and the resurrection of a new mind, which looks at the world in a different way. How you look at the world. You know, Max Planck said, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at will change. So if we look at the world through hostility, through fear, through anger, through resentment, through grievances, through guilt, through shame, through depression, then the world represents that. On the other hand, if you look at the world through the eyes of peace, harmony, laughter, love, joy, compassion, equanimity, fearlessness, then the world that you look at also represents that. All you need is a critical mass of people shifting their perception. And so you are part of that story of the critical mass. That's what I think.
Awesome. I appreciate that. I embrace that.
Our next step is going to you and me and Erica Ford and the Urban Yogis to get together. And then we'll see if we can forge a partnership to actually create a shift in the world.
Yes.
Let's do it, buddy.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Rahfeal Gordon, you and he and I and everyone else who is inspired to change the world will change the world.
Yes.
Thank you.